All right, so today we are going to be doing a best feat in the UFC tier list. This was highly requested by you guys, so make sure you stay tuned. Nah, but seriously, what's up, y'all? Zappy MMA here, back for another banger. And guys, I appreciate the support I've been receiving on my few uploads, so thank you guys all for that. But moving on to today's video, it's basically been about what, 6 years since the start of the pandemic? It's just crazy how fast time goes by. Now, when the pandemic first hit back in the beginning of 2020, lots of things shut down, including sports and other various events. However, one of them managed to stick around and host events even amidst all the chaos surrounding COVID. And of course, I'm talking about the UFC. Okay, now you do have to give Dana White his props for being able to keep the UFC afloat during those hard times. He was able to put together some pretty decent events and fights, which have become very memorable moments over the years, such as Khabib retiring, Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker, etc. And the way the UFC was able to put on these events despite the pandemic was by the introduction of the now notorious Fight Island. For those of you who don't know, Fight Island refers to the sort of makeshift arena that the UFC constructed on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi back in the beginning of 2020. And with the fights now taking place on an isolated island with very limited staff, not to mention it being under the Middle Eastern Athletic Commission, the UFC was pretty much able to continue their weekly events normally, minus the lack of crowd. Like I said before, you do have to give Dana credit for being able to put all of this together. But there was something very sneaky that the UFC, Dana White did in the build up to Fight Island, and particularly involving its promotion. And what I'm talking about is the advertisements, the promotions for Fight Island, the way Dana White talked about it, hyped it up, making it to seem like the actual UFC octagon was going to be outside in the middle of the beach in some sort of tropical environment, which we never ended up actually getting. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that the UFC purposely painted this narrative that Fight Island was going to be some sort of like Mortal Kombat style event held on a tropical island where Dana White pretty much acted as the Shang Tsung of it all. I mean, just look at this official poster for it. As you can tell by the octagon being in the middle of the sand, the palm tree, the ocean, this obviously had many people, including myself, think that it was actually going to look like that. I mean, what else were we supposed to think, right? Or this one. Like, what else were we supposed to think it would look like after seeing it constantly being advertised as some beachside event? You can't tell me that the UFC didn't do this on purpose to gain even more traction to the event. Even the Sun News and like BBC News, TMC, they were also bamboozled by this, not just us fans. So, like I said before, at least in my opinion, this was an obvious ploy to get a lot of people talking about it and build up hype. And let me tell you what, it worked. You see, a lot of people actually started watching the UFC around this time, early 2020, because of Fight Island. I mean, the UFC really started to blow up again. Not to mention guys like Israel Adesanya were really on the rise around this time as well. These Fight Island era fans are now referred to as pandemic fans within the MMA community. They're actually often somewhat scolded by the fan base for being casual fans or newer fans. Anyways, there's actually a clip of John Morgan, an MMA reporter, sort of confronting Dana White in a way about fans thinking that it was some outdoors tropical event, and to which Dana basically kind of ignored the question. Here, I'll show you a clip of it.
What are your thoughts now? It's official. As you said, I think some people had built it up to be this magical place on a tropical island, and the reality was less than the fantasy. So what do you think now that's all out there?
No, it's good. I mean, it's an incredible thing that we pulled off. They have this thing called the safety zone. It's 10 square miles where only we exist on the island. At the hotel,
There's also another clip of the MMA guru on the Full Send podcast briefly mentioning if the Nelk Boys also thought if Fight Island was going to be some sort of tropical outdoor event.
Bro.
Did anyone else think Fight Island was going to be some kind of like tropical outdoor?
We attended that.
Yeah.
Right there, yeah. That was our.
As you can see, it wasn't just me, but a lot of big figures within the MMA community also felt like they were tricked with the promotion surrounding Fight Island. And again, in my opinion, this was very much intentional. Like, even in this clip right here,
And yes, there is an octagon on the beach.
Dana just flat out says that he put an octagon on the middle of the beach, which, even though is technically true, come on, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was being purposely misleading. But I'm not gonna lie, this was kind of smart by the UFC to promote Fight Island in this way. I know it's kind of misleading, but they really did bring a lot of attention, a lot of new fans to the sport, like I mentioned earlier. So in conclusion, I guess my take is that even though allegedly, supposedly, in my opinion, that the UFC purposely misled the MMA fan base regarding the details surrounding Fight Island, it still did at the end deliver, though seeing at least one actual fight on the beach would have been pretty cool. And that's going to do it for today, guys. Again, I appreciate the support I've been receiving on my videos. As always, if you made it this far, you might as well like and subscribe. And until next time, guys.